guns and boy, you're maggot. That's not a joint, that's a damn formatted. Always smoking, I think I'm an addict. I'm in a joint and I ride with a baddie. You know I'm up like a motherfucker. Do, you know we ain't like. Not run up from bag and have it. You know the money gon' come with the magic. And when I can't gon' come with the baggage. We ain't the cutters, we come with the hatchet. Full of gas switches, they come with the gadget. Big ass damage, you can't be capping. We do this shit that the rappers be rapping. I'm having fun, no pun intended. Shot at spot, he was jumping in fence. One of my cousins tumbling gas, and one of my cousins tumbling bricks. Kitchen must be pumping and gas, I be back on the block and be pumping a brick. Pull up trying to be about a thought, you lose your life because of a bitch. We ran away like a city, move along just like an egg. We crack a hit like an egg, we crack a hit like a king. Now he gon' be sad, sugar wants it. In his hand with a spice, up in the motherfucking fridge. You live, stuck in his head. All that in his I'm hurt, no bad. Straight out the bed, I'm trying to solve my problem. Shawty right now, she steps to me when I'm guiding. Wanna ride on my boots, but never thought of some choppers in me. She got me stolen on the side road. Best big road. I'm hurt, talk about I sit down on my face. I spent nights in my cave. Bitch, you know my shit, they like this tape. I'm ready, I didn't make it. It's like my bitch, me, face, sir. Folks, I just had a water issue. I just spilled a bunch of water. So I'm going to need to take 1 more minute before we get started today. Water, I can't really tell. It got over my desk. So give me 1 second. I apologize for the fat fingers and the clumsiness. It's in my DNA. I'll be right back, and we will get this show started. Sorry, folks. I'll go off camera here. See if you guys can. Let's see. What's a song everybody likes? I'll put some sort of song on that. What was I just playing for my kids? 90s R&B. Can't go wrong with 90s R&B. Let's see. Here we go. I will return. Play on words. Welcome in. Today is June 4th, 2026, and I am Mr. Clumsy Man, your host, Peyron Baxter, on the Roots Rundown, a small offshoot of our main show, The Radical Roots, which is on Sundays with myself and Rom, but this is kind of our smaller show where we talk about everything from politics to pop culture and everything in between. And I just spilled water all over my desk. That's why we had a break. And you know what's funny? Before we get started, like when you spill something, and I realized it just happened to me, is that like your body has to like your brain has to process that. So like I knocked the water over and I seen all this water spread across my notes, my outline, my phone, and I'm just like it only lasts for like a second because then you have to start to act or everything else will get more and more messed up. But I just think it's funny how we have that fight, flight, freeze, or faint. even in like moments of mundacity, if you will, or just kind of the regularness of the day, like a small inconvenience, like spilling some water, which will not stain anything, which will not put marks on things. But the fact that I was like, oh my God, is crazy. Like that's just our natural instinct is to freeze or to wait, what is happening? And it anything that goes outside of the norm of our day is perceived to be this kind of existential moment. But I thought that was interesting. I was like, why is my body doing this? Why am I freezing? Why am I freezing? You better act. But to act, you have to analyze what the situation is. So there is a level of we should take a moment to pause when things are going awry. And that is what we're doing here on the Radical Roots podcast and platform, and especially on the Roots Rundown. We got to take a minute. We got to take a second. And one thing I'm trying to add here is a ritual that I've got from Laurie Daniel Favors from Urban View Radio on channel 126, which is taking a moment of gratitude. And what I think that allows me at least to reset, especially after something like that, but allows all of us to reset no matter where you're at, if you're driving to work, if you're listening to this later on, or if you're listening to this not even on Thursday, but another day. When you're listening to this, if you're coming to this classroom, I want us all to kind of reset, unclench your jaw, and have a kind of blank template as we go into this conversation. So if we could all just maybe take a second to just take a deep breath. And then one more. Clear your mind, clear your heart, and everything in between. And let's get into it. Again, folks, today, June 4th, 2026. Today's episode is titled Home of the Cowards. Last episode was Land of the Weak, Land of the Fearful. What's it called? It's Land of the Brave. Not Land of the Brave. Point being, adding from the last episode on Tuesday, which we started with Lorena, to now, is that and by the way, Lorena, thank you so much for joining the show. It was fantastic. There was not a single person that had a negative word, not because they love you, but it was so good. And I know Lorena had a little bit of anxiety to come on, but I let her know again prior to coming on the show. And on the show, this is her house, and she's always welcome to come on the show. And everybody was just effusive with their praise, and I think it was all spot on. So again, I just want to give Lorena her flowers for coming on and really tackling an obstacle. Sometimes either public speaking or doing a podcast can seem daunting, but she came on and she rocked that shit. We did an hour and a half, and it was fantastic. So if you guys missed that episode, please go back and watch it. It was fantastic with Lorena Taylor. She killed it, and we can't wait to have her back on. And if you guys want to know where Lorena is, she's currently in the chat right now, keeping it jumping. One of our OG chatters. So, yeah. But I'm sorry, I had to kind of reset everything because everything got moved around. But let's see here. Come on. Why is it not doing this? Okay. Move this window over here to my other screen. Yeah, I'm glad we made it to Thursday. Thank God it's Thursday. If y'all believe in God, thank whatever up there. This Thursday. It is Friday Junior, is what I call it. I don't call it Thursday, but I'm just glad that folks are able to be here and be present and have their minds where we need to be. And again, if you guys can, please like, share, and subscribe to the Radical Roots podcast and platform. It is how we are trying to make a dent in this independent media space. If you guys think this is something worthwhile, please tell people and give me feedback. I've got a lot of feedback and genuine feedback, because some people are just haters, but like genuine feedback. Please let us know, because we want to make this into something. I don't have the big names. I didn't come from CNN or MS Now or MSNBC. I'm just a guy who has had some political background. I've done some organizing work, and I'm an avid reader, and I'm putting all these things together to basically synthesize what's happening with all of us as we're all trying to grasp onto something. So if you guys could, please like, share, and subscribe this episode right now. Just share it. I don't care if you're watching on YouTube. You can copy the link, share it. If you're watching on Instagram or Facebook, you can share it right now. That right there means the world to us. And of course, as you guys can see here, is our QR code. If you guys could scan that, send us a couple bucks. It doesn't have to be a lot. You don't got to send $100 or $50. $1 would go a long way. So if you guys could, it allows us to maintain the platform and to stay independent. So now that it's all out the way, y'all, there is always some ish happening. So we got the news that long time CBS 60 Minutes correspondent Scott Pelley
put his nuts on the table. That's what I'm back really say. He put his nuts on the table. He went into, I guess it was a staff meeting with the CBS executives and folks who are in management and staff, and basically said that Barry Weiss is and the leadership of CBS is forcing him to repeat lies and to say untruths. And it was a brave thing. I remember the night that he did it because it came out in the newspapers. And then the very next morning, as the troglodyte that she is, Barry Weiss then fires Scott Pelley. Scott Pelley, this is a man from Texas. I don't know if he's in the 70s, but let me see. How old is Scott Pelley? Let's see, let me look up right here. Scott Pelley, age. Yeah, he's 68. He's 68. So he's been around. And let's see, what's his salary? Scott Pelley from CBS, salary. Okay, about $5 million a year. It says all in comp $7 million. So he's okay. He's okay. But we're looking at these people like a Scott Pelley who have been, he's been doing journalism probably for as long as I've been alive, or at least in making decent money for a long time. So he's not hurting on money. But if he's able to stand up and says, you know what, at a certain point, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? This doesn't even matter. And if people like a Barry Weiss and David Ellison and his son Keith, not Keith Ellison, the Ellisons are going to buy up all these media conglomerates to basically push through propaganda. Scott Pelley says, not on my watch. Not on my watch. And he had a scathing rundown. And of course, CBS and Barry Weiss to try to spin it and say, well, he wasn't respecting the show. It's like no one, if you are harming people, if you're lying to people, people you don't deserve to talk to people. You don't deserve to be legitimized. And what Scott Pelley did was something that all of us need to be doing in all of our spheres of influence, is that I don't get what the point of making all this money and being successful and being the leader. Leader of what? Being famous or being renowned, but renowned for what? Scott Pelley put his career on the line again. Someone who's probably needs to start collecting retirement. I don't think he will, because he's making so much money. He's in a higher tax bracket. But you get my point. He had to make a career decision. This is something that he loves. We see him every Sunday sitting on that stool in 60 Minutes. Welcome, I'm Scott Pelley here. Did you know blah 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 blah? And he risked that to say this administration and its tentacles that have dripped down into CBS and something that I love in 60 Minutes has absolutely corrupted the information that you're hearing as a U.S. citizen or from around the world. Remember, don't forget when they scrapped the CCOT story, and the only way we even learned about that was because Canadian 60 Minutes put it out. So we have to understand, people are like, we're sliding into totalitarianism. No, we've been an authoritarian country. We've been an authoritarian country, and it's going to hurt a lot of people's feelings since Europeans got here. That's the reality. Ask indigenous people if what we consider fascism was not applied to them. Ask trafficked Africans how we consider fascism, was that not put on them for hundreds of years? It is just now being so naked and so bold. But the thing is, I embrace it, and you should embrace it. I embrace all of it, because these are the death throes of white supremacy. All the gerrymandering and redrawing the maps and stopping the vote here, and you can't vote in Florida. They passed a referendum where folks who are able to, who committed crimes and serve their time, they can vote. But then they say, well, you got to pay your fines. All of this is because Republicans and the ones who firmly, deeply, and strongly embrace white supremacy, white narcissism, they know they will lose if all of us come out and vote. If all of us come out and vote, we win. And a stat, and I always talk about what radicalizes me on the show. Something that radicalized me is that in this country, since the passage of the Voting Rights Act, we have never cracked 67% voter participation. Never. And we look at these other countries and, oh, wow, they almost elected a fascist with Marie Le Pen. They almost elected a fascist with AFD in Germany. And they came out at 72 and 74. And we're laughing at them. It's almost, we're not laughing, but there's this condescension that we get from our media echo chambers and from our pundits and our talking heads that are like, wow, they almost let in the fascists. The reason fascists win is because people don't participate. When there's a higher participation rate, the fascists lose. But it starts with education. It starts with having access to food and having access to healthcare. All that stuff is a predetermined factor of how much people will be a part of the political process, or will be able to be a part of the political process. So America, this giant, most wealthiest nation in the planet in human history, what we hear all the time. I don't know how true that is, because again, do you feel like you're living in the wealthiest nation in the world? I sure as fuck don't. I drive past homeless people all the time. People be getting laid off. People are starving. I saw a lady. She was a program manager for decades. She's selling her plasma. Scott Pelley was there to tell the truth about those in power who were orchestrating all this, and how it's connected to geopolitical and socioeconomic conditions. But they wouldn't allow that. Scott Pelley, you got to go. Truth tellers, you got to go. All to protect the 1%, the Epstein class, the pedophile class. Because don't forget, to run a pedophile ring requires a lot of complicity. It requires a lot of participation. Just think about it. It's not just Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. It takes people who are on the food crew and the flight crew and the people that gas up cars and the people that tend the hedges. All of this is required to maintain violence. And that is what whiteness in America is actively afraid of, is that all the lies that it took to maintain that singular story I told about Lonnie Bunch, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of fight. But Scott Pelley went out guns a-blazing. Guns a-blazing. His guns were a-blazing. Smoking them things. Smoking all over them things. But shout out to Scott Pelley. He gonna be all right. He ain't hurting for nothing. But what are we gonna do? Here's Jennifer Welch, friend of the pod. Never been on, but she's a psychological friend of the pod. Here's Jennifer Welch from the I've Had a Podcast reacting, and I think she's making a real solid point here that, yeah. Oh, maybe not here. Sorry. Oh, here we go.
Barry Weiss is a very unserious person who has a very serious job. You chose to go work for these fascists, and now you are a fascist collaborator. We stand with Scott Pelley 100%. And everyday Americans look to his courage and his strength and do not fall for this jet stream of bullshit letter sanctimoniously lecturing Americans about journalism. And here is our job: boycott every fucking thing on CBS News from the morning all the way through to the evening. These are the same people that fired Stephen Colbert because Trump got his feelings hurt by a comedian. These people are the biggest bunch of pussies that masquerade with these grandstanding letters like they're such badasses. These people don't care about the truth. They don't care about journalism. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about a free press. It's just absolutely devastating what these oligarchs have done to our country. And then you get these people that go and join them. But Scott Pelley showed us the way by standing up and fighting these people tooth and nail.
100%. I agree with Jennifer Welch 100%, and that's the level of courage and bravery we all have to kind of find, again, in our own spheres of influence. I don't care if you're a coach. I don't care if you are in corporate America. I don't care if you are, in tech. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you're just, in a neighborhood watch. I don't care. I don't care what it is. You have a sphere of influence to say, you know what are we going to do? Because these people, they have a vision. They have a vision, and their vision is a white patriarchal wealthy society, a planter class, if you will, very similar to those who held my ancestors in bondage. And I actually I finally finished A People's History of the United States. I mean, this thing is tattooed up. Very long read. It's my only book I've read this year. That's not very much unlike me. But I started the book, Burn Down Master's House. And it is such, it's gotten my blood going, because we know you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to remember that it rolls. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to remember that it rolls. And in that book, it is a story about how, or it's multiple stories about how we survive. How those of us who don't have the right language are able to communicate effectively to survive. How those of us who are the most vulnerable and have the least amount of power are able to thrive. The book is amazing. I'm only on there's 4 stories. I'm on the second story. And, or actually the third story. I was binging it. I was like, man, I got to keep going. This is crazy. They all kind of connect to they kind of build on one another. But it's this idea of like, there's going to be a time where you have to draw a line in the sand. And at a certain point, the people that it's just a difference of opinion, political opinion. If your political opinion is a part of a movement that is meant to dehumanize me and other people, that's not an opinion. If you believe that supporting Trump, MAGA, Israel, that's the main reason why Barry Weiss is there and the Ellisons are there, to spin the genocidal apartheid state of Israel as to being something that is just benign and things that are happening. No, we've seen enough. And Barry Weiss doesn't deserve. If you guys are in, I don't know where she lives, but if you guys are in the area she's in, and you see her out eating lunch, scream at her to fuck with this. We are sitting here still being policed by rules, as other people are taking those rules and throwing them in the trash to take our rights away. At a certain point, we have to ask ourselves, why are we playing by rules while those who are in power are not playing by the rules to hurt me? What am I playing by the rules? What is that helping me with? Not much. So shout out to Scott Pelley. I'm sure he's going to start a podcast or a Substack, or just, I'm sure he's got investments and investors and folks and brokers that have made him super rich, more than that $5 to $7 million he makes a year. I'm sure he's worth well more than that. That's just his salary. But we need more Scott Pelleys. It's the whole adage of I had the last episode, I had the shirt of John Brown on. Today's shirt is Monkey D. Luffy, an anime character who fights for liberation. Me and my son have watched it. I've watched it. It's the longest running anime, but it's about a pirate, right? A criminal who fights against the government, and he frees people from slavery, and he fights against racism and classism and sexism. There's trans people and there's queer people, and it's a beautiful show. It's the number one most selling manga of all time. I think number one most selling book. I think it's even beat Shakespeare, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on it, but it's up there. Point being, when I had my John Brown shirt on the last episode with Lorena, there's this quote about John Brown that I love. It's not necessarily about John Brown, but it's more about us. The quote's about us. And it goes, if we had more John Browns, there would be no John Brown. Right? If we had more John Browns, there would be no John Browns. If we had more people saying, fuck this, man. You said, hold on, for me to live in this place, I got to have these people over here being whipped, and I got to watch that shit. And I got to watch them, get their eyes gouged out and their ears cut off and branded on the face and whipped on the back. I need all of this just for me to feel safe over here. It sounds very similar to what we're hearing from the blue and white state. For me to feel safe as a Jewish person, we got to make sure we're bombing Gaza. You see? And then in this book, ironically, in the People's History of the United States, there's a story during Vietnam of an indigenous man. He's an indigenous person in the army, and he goes to Vietnam and he says these were the exact same tactics they were doing to my people hundreds of years ago. And he writes a letter to the president. I might find it and read it on some other day. But Scott Pelley was against that. But speaking of the blue and white state, have you guys heard of NDAA Section 224? It sounds like a Wi-Fi password. Have you heard of this? No? Maybe? Well, they are I think they're voting on it today. Republicans, and it is bipartisan, and this title is going to say the word Republicans, but I just want to be very clear. It is a bipartisan effort. The Congress is trying to pass through basically a national defense authorization that will basically merge the United States military with the Israeli military. Now, there's clearly one reason this was to have Benjamin Netanyahu recently said that he wants aid from America to cease in the next 10 years. And that sounds nice. Like, oh, okay, well, our tax dollars stop going to Israel. Yeah, but the cut around, see, this is listen with your third ear. The cut around is that if Israel and the United States are the same thing, there would be no money going to Israel. It would just be investment in national security. That's it. That's it. So Israel will be allowed to do more land grabs, realize greater Israel, commit more genocide, kill more Lebanese, start attacking Turkey. All these things. All these things. And here's Amanda. Her name is Amanda Malatakes on Instagram, and she's going to break it down for us.
There's a controversial provision in this bill that would link, it's section 224, that would link our military with the military of Israel even farther than it is now. As of right now, Israel is the country that we have given the most foreign aid to, worth probably about $300 billion since 1948, right? Adjusted for inflation. Right now, we are under a piece of federal law that was passed during the Obama administration that provides a certain amount of federal funding for Israel's military every year for 10 years, and that runs out in 2028. So if this portion of the National Defense Authorization Act passes, our military supply chain and infrastructure will be tied even closer together to Israel's. Now, Netanyahu has said that he wants his country to depend less on American military aid because we stand on our own feet or whatever. But you can say that if the thing you're trying to get Congress to do is tie your militaries together either way, right? So this would integrate the Israeli military supply chain into our own. It would also integrate our efforts in AI together and surveillance. Now, if Israel is integrated into our defense technology supply chain, that means that anytime Israel wants to turn off that defense technology supply chain, it would affect our national security. And along with tying us together in AI production and AI research, it would tie us together in defense research more generally. So as we are discovering new weapons or weapons technology, Israel would be right there with us. I think this is a dumb idea, regardless of how you feel about Israel. I am no fan of Israel, though, for the record. Genocidal maniacs, Netanyahu and his government. But integrating your country's national security with the supply chain of another country is a dumb idea. It's just on its face a dumb idea. I don't care who that other country is. It's stupid. So you can call your House members to talk about Section 224 of the National Defense Authorization Fund and how you do not want that included. This is going to be pretty unpopular amongst both Democrats and the America First wing of the Republican Party. So.
Yeah, I like Amanda Malatakes. One thing I'll say, I mean, she's a liberal. Though she's a liberal, she's not a progressive or a leftist, but she's a liberal, which means that she believes in the system. And if we just had the right people in the system would work well for everyone. The problem with that is she's leaving out the culpability aspect. She's talking about the weapons advancement and technology advancement and AI advancement, but also there's a violent culpability that the United States, which already is already culpable for the maintaining and subsidizing the genocide of the Palestinians. But we would be culpable for everything that Israel is doing. And we have to stop looking at Israel as a attack dog in the Southwestern Asia, Northern Africa, and look at it as an extension of America. It's an extension of the United States. It is a imperialist outgrowth of the fever dreams of the West. So the fact that Israel is able to commandeer politicians and commandeer industries, it's all because it's all intertwined with the United States of America's interests within that area, right? Because even if we look at the populations, if we look at just where it is, you're trying to tell me that this little tiny country needs to be merged with the United States military. Its military needs to be merged with the United States military. How does that even make sense? Gabby's comment here. The fact that this was even proposed speaks volumes about where we are as a country. This is 100% about money. They are selling out its people and give 0 Fs. Yes, I agree. But this is what this country's always been. Don't forget, we was down with the Nazis. The United States was down with the Nazis. Don't forget, it almost too, like, just a quick side note, we almost need to stop calling Nazis as, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Nazis were evil people, but we kind of hang all of history's vileness on Nazis. Like, saying Nazi means like you're the worst person ever. But where did the Nazis get their playbook from? And that's what kind of puts butterflies in our stomachs as Americans, is we're like, yeah, the Nazis are the worst. Yeah, they are. They are the worst, no question. They are terrible. The Nazis were only around for about 7-8 years. The Confederacy and the planter class and lily white primaries and Jim Crow and just vile 246 years of chattel slavery is a little bit more than that. And if you guys have ever seen the movie Origins, which was based on the book by it was based on the book Caste by Isabel Wilkerson. You guys, I'm sure Caste is up there. You guys, it's a very famous book. I'm sure you guys have heard it. Pulitzer Prize winner Isabel Wilkerson, journalist. And it's basically a biopic off of her putting that book together and how she ties all these things together. But there's a scene in that movie that sticks out to me. And it is when she's in Germany and she's kind of researching for the Holocaust, and she's talking with these two Germans, and they're talking about how Germany has, repented for its vileness and repented for its sins, and why hasn't America done all this stuff, and blah, blah, blah. And the worst thing that ever happened to humans on the face of the planet was the Holocaust. And the character that's playing Isabel Wilkerson absolutely rejects that premise, that no, it was absolutely the transatlantic slave trade and the ongoing chattel slavery of Africans. And the host of this dinner, she's having dinner at someone's house. The host of this dinner goes, well, the official number was 6 million Jewish people, which then Isabel Wilkerson says, well, the true official total was 11.5 million people. It wasn't just Jewish people that the Nazis murdered. But she says, and this line's always stuck with me, she says, but for us, there was no official number. There was no official number. That's how many people it was. That's how many generations were lost. That's how many people never got birth dates or names, or never got any sort of citizenship to be tracked. People were bred, murdered, thrown into bramble bushes that have dogs eat them. Well before there was ever an Adolf Hitler. Well before there was ever a World War I. And damn well before sure there was a World War II. So as we're sitting here and we're trying to disunpack all these things, we're trying to look at Israel, look at all these things, like this is who these countries are. And until we start looking at it through that frame, and not stop trying. Well, Trump is destroying the country. The country this is why Ibram X. Kennedy's book, stamped from the beginning. This thing was stamped for death from the beginning. This whole situation was stamped for death. It's just we happen to be living through it right now. And if you think tying our military to a genocidal settler colonial project that is tied together with nothing besides, can we dominate this land, then I got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you, which is also on stolen land. So they're voting on that today. I don't know where that's going to land, kind of in the vote. I don't think it's going to pass. But to Gabby's point, the fact that we're even talking about this is disgusting. The fact that we have Democrats voting for it proves that there is no moral center. Yeah, you have a few Democrats here or there, but there is no movement. There is no people coming together saying we reject Israel. because that's the only country that you cannot criticize. What's the old phrase? The way you know who's in power is because that's the person that you can't critique, you can't scrutinize. And who is the person that you lose jobs for, you lose scholarships for, you can go to jail for? Israel. So to hell with Israel. And I really hope this gets voted down, doesn't get passed out of committee. But that's today. So it'll probably happen either right now or this afternoon. So if you guys are hearing this, we might circle back on this tomorrow. We're going to do the parking lot again tomorrow. That was really fun. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Moving on to the next topic here. Oh, so we talked about last episode. I kind of opened the show with the preamble of the Tulsa the Tulsa massacre, reaching its anniversary May 31st through June 2nd. But since then, and then I kind of wrapped it up with the murder of Cyrus Belton, Carmack Melton. I try to get all three names right. Cyrus Carmack Melton, and his murder from Rick Chow. And just tying together how Tulsa and that murder proved that Black lives have never mattered to this country. Again, this is why all of us sitting here getting upset about, he's doing this, he's tearing the country down. This country does not care about human beings. It never has. And if you think now they don't care, that's your privilege showing. So I want us all to kind of sit with that. Like, I allowed a lot of shit to happen. And if I lived in chattel slavery, if I lived during Jim Crow, whatever I'm doing right now is what I would be doing during that time. I would be trying to make it. I would be trying to just put my head down. I would just maybe talk amongst, polite company and friends, but I wouldn't try to actively go out and decry what the fuck is going on. I wouldn't get in the way of an enslaver grabbing a baby out of the hands of its mother and punching the mother in the mouth and telling her to shut the fuck up. She better not cry. I wouldn't, right? That's what you would do. You would sit there and be like, okay, well, he's a white man. Who told you? We got to start having that radical anger, that righteous anger. So with that, I ended it with the jury finding Rick Chow not guilty for murdering Cyrus Carmack Belton. But since then, folks figured it out. Folks were like, you know what? We will never find justice in this jurisprudence, this jurisprudential situation, which is the American legal system. We knew that as Black people. We've always known that. Now, it doesn't mean we don't become lawyers to try to shape the law where we can at least have a modicum of justice or a modicum of freedom. It reminds me of like when Martin Luther King was, when he was alive, and he was asked by a white journalist, well, you can't legislate hate. You can't create laws to stop people from hating. And Martin Luther King says, absolutely not. It's their right to hate whoever they want to hate. There needs to be laws that will stop them from harming people. There needs to be consequences for them harming people. Because if there's consequences for you lynching me, I guarantee you folks will stop getting lynched. But when there's no consequences and you have people in power, yeah, it's okay. Do that shit. Kill those Negroes, kill them niggas. It's okay. It's all good. And then you get people who are immigrants who have also been demonized, who have also been told that you're the worst and you're less than human, but you ain't no nigga. You ain't no Negro. You have people who come in here from all over the place, even places in Africa. And they're told that as long as you're not one of these descendants of enslaved people, you're good. Because in this country, as long as you're killing them, you're good. You're good. And of course, it reminds us of the case of Latasha Harlins in the 90s. Very similar. There was a Korean grocery store owner, I think Sundu Ha, claimed that Latasha Harlins was stealing an orange juice. She wasn't. And she put the orange juice and the money on the counter. And during this confrontation, Latasha Harlins got upset and turned around, and the store owner took out a gun and shot her in the back of the head. Young girl. She was convicted, but then the judge let her off. That was in the 90s. That was almost 40 years ago. And now we're seeing Cyrus Carmack Belton, who had 4 bottles of water, showed them that he didn't have the water, put the waters back, left, And for 130 yards, a football field is 100 yards. So for 130 yards, was pursued and shot in the back. And the jury said that's okay because in this country you can always kill niggas. Just say you were free, which is what he said. And then his son said he said he was defending his son 130 yards away in the back. What is the danger to your son? And we're supposed to, as black people, put our hands on our fucking hearts and pledge allegiance to this settler colonial project that says your life means nothing. And this is why we say Black Lives Matter. And the folks are like, well, all lives matter. Well, all lives can't matter until Black lives matter. And people are sick of this shit. So when Rick Chow got his basically his acquittal, almost immediately, folks started protesting Rick Chow's two businesses. He has two businesses in South Carolina. And I'm pulling this up here. Let's see. This is from ABC4. This is by Kiana Jordan. And let me share my screen here. From Kiana Jordan. And they're talking about here. So protesters rally after Rick Chow acquitted in 2023 killing of Cyrus Carmack Belton. Remind you, he was 14 years old, same age as Emmett Till. Black boys always become black hulking men in the time of our death. The demonstration unfolded at the site where this is where people started protesting. So the demonstration unfolded at the site where the incident began nearly 3 years ago, as community members expressed anger and grief and frustration over the verdict. Carmack Belton was fatally shot after Chow and his son believed the teenager had stolen a bottle of water from the convenience store, which we just discussed. Following the acquittal, protesters assembled outside the gas station. So almost immediately, people are like, no, fuck all this. We ride now. We ride right. Not even we're riding at dawn. We're riding now. Get down to Chow's now. Chow down on Chow's. So yeah, they immediately went to the gas station carrying many signs, and I think he has a restaurant as well. Jalen Ricks, one of the demonstrators, said Carmack Belton chose to walk away from the confrontation after being armed. Quote, the young man had a gun on him, yes, but he still walked away, Rick said. For him to have the sense to still walk away, that man would have been bright. There was something special about him. That's why I feel like something was taken from us as a community. And that's key. That's key. Taken from us. Taken from us. Again, I'm tying these two stories together because it's the same story. It makes me think about, as I brought up Tulsa last time as it relates to Carmack Belton, that brother, Jalen, his name was, Jalen Ricks, he said something was taken from us in our community. It makes me think about J.B. Stratford. J.B. Stratford, at the time of the Tulsa massacre, owned the largest hotel in the United States of America owned by a black person. He owned the largest hotel in the United States owned by a black person. And this was in Tulsa. And when they found out that Dick Rowland was in jail, which was a lie. He was not in jail. But this is the richest person, or one of the richest people in the area, in Tulsa, in Black Wall Street. He said that him and his other comrades who were rich, who were the wealthy, the upper crust of Tulsa, they said, I'm going to go down to that jailhouse, and if it needs to come down to it, I will unload my pistol until it is empty, and then I will surrender my fate to the white mob. That is the level of determination to fight for your freedom, and to fight for equal treatment, and to fight against bigotry, and to fight against racism. It's like, if y'all gonna kill me anyway, what's the point of having all this money? Because money don't mean nothing if they can still kill you, if they can still kill your children. The whole point of generational wealth is not to make sure my kids can go to college. The point, especially from a marginalized group, especially if you're black, the point of generational wealth is to fight for your people. That is it. That is it. I know a lot of people think, well, it's about my kids, and if my kids can go to college and they can have the house. It is not for any of that, my friends. If you have economic power without political power, i.e. political protection, you have nothing. Word to Black Wall Street. Word to the 50 towns in Oklahoma. If you go take the real Black Wall Street tour in Tulsa, Oklahoma, they'll show you a map. There was 50 towns like Tulsa. 50 towns. But if you don't like the political power, i.e. political protection, they'll take it away from you. And now you're back to being destitute. Now you're back to being, a beggar. Now you're back to being a peon. So no, the point of your wealth and your taxes and your stocks and your all this, none of that is for just, I want to go live my life. That is what white supremacy wants you to believe. They want you to believe that your money is only for you to spend and have largesse, to just ball it up, pour bottles up, all this stuff. Mercedes-Benz, all this shit doesn't mean anything. The point of generational wealth for Black people, and many have written about this, is to defend our people and to fight for our people. And this is why I'm disgusted by the Black elite and those that want to be them. And those that want to be them. Does that mean don't make money? No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying it's what you do with your money. It's what you do with your mind. It's what you do with your body. Well, I'm supporting Black businesses. It's bigger than Black businesses. Because the Black business can, as easy as it can be put up, it can be shut down. What are you doing for the community? How are you using all that power and influence in the rooms that we're not in? That you're supposed, I'm there and I'm the only Black person. I hate that line. I'm the only Black person in the room. Okay, well, guess what? They think that you're compliant. No, I be talking back. No, you don't. No, you do not. And even if you do, you're a mascot. Even if you do, you're a mascot. Because that means you don't hold any real power. We have to start using self-governance, who we are to one another, versus social constructs, who we are to someone else. But yeah, I think about J.B. Stratford when I hear about that he took them from us. Because again, J.B. Stratford, a wealthy hotel owner, he saw that Dick Rowland was a part of our community. And Dick Rowland, the supposed reason that the Tulsa Massacre started, who touched Sarah Page's hand, he wasn't no wealthy person. He was no businessman. He was a regular, everyday Joe like me and you. But J.B. Stratford said, he's a part of us. And I will lay down my life for him. Because that is what's required in this moment. And sadly, it's what's required right now. It is. But the thing is, Black folks have been cannon fodder for so long. And honestly, to not much progress. The folks are tired of it. So people do need folks who've had more privilege, more power, more resources, more influence to get on the front lines, to give a damn. If you're in these board meetings and if you're sitting around with the mayors of these towns, or if you guys talking to your CEO and you're not talking about the racism or what's happening just because you want to get your next promotion, you want to get your next election win, you are a class traitor. You're a class traitor. And you don't show class solidarity like J.B. Stratford that said, he is of us. He is of us. We are him. He is I am. We are one. Class went out the window. He is us. And right now, it's too many people, not me. Not me. Not I. Nah, what you talking about? I'm Black, though. And I forget I don't know if he's a lawyer or an education doctor, but he said that, we don't have Black leaders no more. We have leading Blacks. We don't have Black leaders no more. We have leading Blacks. Now, I don't think that we need a singular leader, but it's interesting. It's interesting that comment from Jalen Ricks to almost well over 100 years ago with J.B. Stratford saying the same thing. Our community was harmed. This is why white people think that we, racist white people, think that we idolize George Floyd or Barack Obama. And it's not that we idolize George Floyd, but he could be any of us. And it's an injustice. And you should want your government to not murder citizens. for no reason. You shouldn't want the state to kneel publicly and publicly lynch people. Who told Derek Chauvin he could do that shit? America told him that through the media, through his sports, through his movies, through his TV shows. That's who told him he could do that. Through the books, through his church. That's who told him you could just kneel on this nigga's neck and guess what? Ain't nothing gonna happen. And guess what? And that's exactly what happened. Until a young 16-year-old Darnella Frazier was so bold to release the video that she recorded, which is the infamous video of Derek Chauvin kneeling on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes and 26 seconds. But Rick Chow, they were out there. Let me continue on reading this. Sorry, I took it down. Oh no, I did finish it. Okay, I'm sorry, finished it. Yeah. So moving on. So we're gonna keep an eye on this because this is what they're afraid of. This is what they're afraid of. They're afraid of us coming together and seeing ourselves in one another. And as we talk about the system of legalized apartheid, which lasted here in this country, de jure, which means in the law, for well over a century, this gentleman who's recently lost his election to an AIPAC candidate is going out swinging with both fists. Rep Al Green from Texas got into it with new Secretary of Homeland Security, Markwayne Mullin. Markwayne. And this is how you go out.
Racists take offense at peaceful protests. A racist, Mr. Secretary, would do what happened to Ruby.
Are you calling me a racist?
A racist.
I'm asking a question.
Reclaiming my time, ask him to shut up.
That's a pretty.
Shut up.
Shut up.
Shut up. It's my time.
I'm not going to let anybody call me a racist, Chairman.
I never called him a racist. It's my time.
It is, gentlemen, will suspend.
You will not.
Tell him to shut up.
Gentlemen, suspend. No.
I ask that any person who desires to interrupt me, shut up. I was peaceful. The Secretary says he believes in peaceful protest. Freeze the frame, please. That, my friends, is the Secretary of Homeland Security. He traversed some distance to get to a peaceful protester and display his despicable behavior. Unbought, that's me. Unbossed, unafraid, that's me.
I know that's right, Al Green. I know that's right. Al Green, and you see, just real quick to Markwayne Mullin, you see how he was sitting there and he was like, well, are you trying to call me a racist? And he likes to throw around that he's Cherokee. I'm a Cherokee. And I found this article from, this is by who's this from? The High Country News. And this is from 7 years ago, going on 7 years ago. And this is written by a gentleman, Graham Lee Brewer, December 9th, 2019. Just for y'all folks who are like, well, he says that he's a Cherokee, so how could he be racist? Let me hear you. He was a chief. Let's read this. Mullin and I are both citizens of the Cherokee Nation, though, as many will tell you, he does not fit the stereotypical notions of what it means to be indigenous, either in how he looks or how he operates as a lawmaker. Get out of here. I'm sorry. Mullin, who is also white passing, the Cherokee Nation has never required a minimum blood quantum for tribal membership. Blood quantum is like it's a percentage of how much blood you have in you that is authentic indigenous. This was actually presented to actually exclude Africans from claiming anybody that had African ancestry out of being considered indigenous. This was, again, going back to the old gentleman's agreement of racism, of how they even leveraged indigenous people against Africans to be considered human beings. So blood quantum wasn't necessarily to say how indigenous you are if you look white, but it was how much African blood you have in you if you're indigenous. Just so y'all know, that's the history of blood quantum. The Cherokee Nation has never required a minimum blood quantum for tribal membership. As a result, we are the largest tribe in the country. That means we also have the largest diaspora, as well as the widest spectrum of political, cultural, and racial identities. Like most indigenous voters, Cherokees have historically voted Democrat. But in the last election for tribal chief showed there were many vocal Cherokee Republicans. Mullen is an ultra-conservative, white-passing Cherokee who has been an advocate for both tribal sovereignty and for encouraging tribes to assert that sovereignty by allowing private energy production on their lands. The duality has caused many to ask, is Markwayne Mullin good or bad for Indian country? Okay, I don't think I need to explain it to anybody here. Markwayne Mullin is not good for Native country. Markwayne Mullin he's a white man. He is a white man. And the way I do this, because people a lot of time we deal with like black people and she's an octoroon, she's a mulatto, this is how I tell people, because Obama ain't black, Kamala Harris ain't black, and okay, shut up. You're all stupid. All those arguments are stupid. This is how I present to people. This is what I ask people. Do you get to wield, or are you privileged from white supremacy? Like, are you able, or white privilege, not white supremacy? Do you get to wield white privilege? If you say, yeah, I actually get white privilege, not light privilege, not texturism, not colorism, white privilege. If the answer is no, you are not a white person. White passing and all, because there are white passing people, right? Walter White, who was one of the leaders of the NAACP, looked like a white man. He looked just like a white man. And so he got the benefits of white privilege. Now, granted, he was black and he infiltrated the KKK. That's how he was able to do so. He had blonde hair and blue eyes, but his mama was black and he was black. He called himself black, but he knew he had a role to play. And he helped bring down the KKK during its second iteration. So when we're sitting here dealing with idiots like Markwayne Mullin, who are like, I'm a Cherokee. I'm not, how you can call me a racist? I'm Cherokee. You don't identify as that. And that doesn't mean anything for you. On top of that, that means someone probably raped somebody or was forced through exploitation to have a child. And then somehow, of course, that kept getting whittled down to your whiteness. We have to stop allowing the fascists, like we have to stop being played by fascists. There's a video, I don't know if I didn't download it, but there's a guy, he's talking, he's like, we can never overestimate the pleasure fascists get in playing with us with rhetoric, where they're constantly saying, well, I mean, is that it? And hold on, but you guys, when you're able to live outside of reality because you're more privileged, that's a flex of your power. When black people are telling white people this is what's happening, and they're like, oh no, is that true? Is that the case? Is that, I don't know. That is them living outside of reality, and that is a power. They're flexing their power. When men tell women, I don't think that's sexist. I don't think about that. That's us flexing our power. If a straight person tells I don't stop forcing all that trans shit down my throat, all that gay shit down my throat, that's me. I don't want to shut the conversation down because I'm actually uncomfortable with how far we actually are, and I don't want us to go that far anymore. So I'm going to shut it down and not believe you. People who choose to live outside of reality are dangerous. Dangerous. Choosing to believe lies, choosing to believe a lie is very dangerous. But many of us do. White, black, male, female, gay, straight, able-bodied, disabled, doesn't matter. A lot of us do. We have to invest in our common humanity. Markwayne Mullin talking to someone who lived through legalized apartheid in America, the United States of America, who Al Green has said countless times, it was horrible. It was horrible. And he didn't fight for integration. He fought for our resources, our tax dollars are going to the white people. That's what he fought for when he was young. That's what the Brown v. Board of Education was about. It was about run us our check, give us our money, We pay taxes like the white people, but the thing is, somehow all of our taxes keep going to their communities. It wasn't for us to sit on the bus with white people or us to sit at the lunch counter with white people. We don't give a fuck about y'all nasty ass food. We don't give a fuck about sitting next to y'all with y'all unwashed legs. We cared about, if I'm going to pay taxes like every other U.S. citizen, then I better have the same rights, protections, and privileges as every other U.S. citizen. That's it. It was not about, oh, can we all come together? And no. Because culturally, you don't understand. And culturally, you are a danger to us. Lorena brought it up on our last episode. If there's a bunch of women around and one man enters it, the whole dynamic changes. Same thing with other marginalized groups. If you're of a more powerful aspect, you are a threat to them if you're not actively deconstructing, if you're not actively challenging the system that you are benefited from. And too many Americans currently do not want to challenge that system. Even the progressive ones, even the liberal ones, even Democrats. There's a certain point where they're like, you know what? I like it as it is. It maybe, some of the shit went too far. What went too far? It's been a right-wing country since day one. It's never not been right-wing. I don't care if you had a Democrat in office. Who cares? You can look at I used to say, you can look at every decade and point out a terrible race, gender, sexuality massacre or incidents. But honestly, at this point, you can look at every year, fuck a decade, every year, and you can point out something atrocious that was let go by the United States government, because this project is meant to keep us fighting each other. But those who have more power, it's incumbent upon them to stop fighting against those who are less than them. Not less than, but according to the settler colonial ongoing criminal enterprise known as the United States of America, it's on them to say, why am I attacking poor people? That's why I don't have something. I don't have something because, someone's on welfare. Okay, but it's the majority of white people, but I've been told there's welfare queens. Okay. I don't have, my grocery prices and gas prices are high because of immigrants. At a certain point, we got to stop legitimizing this shit. We got to stop saying like, well, that's just how it is. Fuck how it is. And usually people who are saying that are ones who are comfortable. Oh, I got my job. All of that shit is ephemeral. All of it is. It's here today, gone tomorrow. All of it. Money's not even real. So the generational wealth, it's not even real. Think about it. We are basing this person's better than that person. You're more deserving than that person laying on the street because you have green rectangular pieces of paper with portraits of enslavers on them. You have more of those green rectangular pieces of paper than that person on the street. And therefore you're like, man, they must be a drug addict. They must. And look what happened in LA. We didn't get to the races. We'll probably get to that tomorrow. But, Spencer Pratt, number 2 in the runoff against Karen Bass. Let me add that to the list. We're running out of time. All right. Last thing here. As we moving on to gendered things. This was just disgusting. And of course, if I'm starting a sentence with this was just disgusting, we're going to end on big fat drag queen, drama queen, crying orange tears, man, Donald Trump. He was in the Oval Office yesterday, I believe, and he basically lambasted Caitlin Collins with all his sexist, misogynistic rhetoric. And here it is here. And then we'll talk on the other side.
CNN's a very corrupt organization, but with a corrupt reporter standing right there. Never smiles. You never see a young, beautiful woman, never smiles. I never see a smile off her face. I see her standing there with hatred in her eyes. Like she has hatred because we have borders, because we have a strong military, because we cut our taxes, because we do things that everybody wanted, and then we win our election in a massive landslide.
No, I'm not asking Caitlin about this because she's got actual work to do, and she doesn't need to be answering questions about this kind of behavior. That's the President of the United States, a nearly 80-year-old man who has no problem commenting on her physical appearance and telling her she needs to smile. That doesn't happen to men. No one's ever said that to me in an office setting. She was there like every other journalist doing her job, standing around with a bunch of non-smiling men, by the way, all behind her. I don't know if you saw that. She gets singled out. Now, this, of course, is not the first time the president has focused on professional female reporters, Caitlin included.
You are the worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. I don't think I've ever seen a smile.
Well,
on
I'm
your
asking
face.
you about survivors of Jeffrey Epstein.
You are an obnoxious, a terrible reporter. Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person? You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. You ought to go back and learn how to be a reporter. No more questions from you.
Is there something incriminating in the file, sir?
Why won't someone just punch him? Oh my God, fuck that. Like, bro, why are we legitimizing this? Like, why are we sitting here about that's the president of the United States? That is a racist, sexist pedophile. That's the title you should be leading with. Who is president? Not President Trump was accused. President Trump is a racist, sexist, pedophile, murderer, mass murderer. 1 million people died because of his bungling of COVID. Again, talk about last time, my brother being one of them. I'm not gonna let him off the hook for shit. And we're sitting here like, and those reporters, and I get it. Like, there's a level you got to just do your job, but like, goddamn, this isn't like, what are the history books going to say about this? I know our reporters just stood there and watched, because that is what journalists are supposed. That's not push back. Excuse me, sir. I don't know how you are talking about. I mean, there's a way you could do this. I mean, I would be like, fuck it. I'm losing my job. Fuck it. You talking to me like that? I mean, don't fucking smile. You smile, you fat bitch. Yeah. Oh, don't fat shame. At a certain point, when they go low, what did Cardi B say? I'm taking it to hell. Where the lava at? Take it to where the lava at. Because he thinks that he's some strong. Remind him, you're a fat bitch. You are. Fuck you, Donald Trump. You fucking rapist. You pedophile. That's why Melania can't fuck you. That's why you're shitting on yourself all the time. Say something. But she's sitting there, and I get it. There's love, you got to take it. But it reminds me of, old school socialists and communists like Upton Sinclair, who said that it is really difficult to get a man to understand something when his salary is dependent upon him not understanding it. And Caitlin Collins does not deserve that. No journalist deserves that. No, those women at the end, that montage of women, they don't deserve that. Donald Trump is a broken man. He is a embarrassing example of what true American white men are. Oh, you say, oh man, but yeah, but the thing is, even when men of other races are trying to be patriarchal, that's because in their minds they're trying to get closer to the apex man, who can get away with violence, who can get away with rape, who can get away with talking down and belittling women, which is the white man. So when I say he is an example of the worst the white men have to offer, which is why the overwhelming majority of white men voted for him. And the party that is represented by overwhelming majority white men and in Congress has overwhelming majority white men in positions of power in both the House and the Senate and across legislatures are predominantly white men. It makes sense. It makes sense. He doesn't respect himself, so he can't respect a woman. What the fuck you talking to me for, Caitlin Collins? You talking to me like that? You're a woman. In reality, Donald Trump is you that is the fat bitch. Not Caitlin Collins, not Yamiche Alcindor, not April Ryan, not Abby Phillip, not anybody, not Jim Acosta, no one. Trump and all those Trumps. But what it is they can't, because whiteness it's a narcissism, white narcissism, and the reason why is because if you're a narcissist, you cannot take any feedback. You can never be told that you're wrong. Look out for this in your own relationships, in your churches, in your homes. It could be in your bedroom, your friend groups. People who cannot take, I fucked up. Ah, man. This is why they were angry at Dr. Fauci and science and books and history and things that are just challenging their singular myopic worldview. But at a certain point, who's going to stand up and be like, shut the fuck up, dude? Fall asleep or something, bro. Lose that job. I guarantee you the American public, even the folks that ain't got 2 pennies to rub together, will find out a way to send that person $5. They'll be taken care of for the rest of their lives. That journalist that stands up and loses their job in that moment and curses him out and says, this is why you have the lowest approval rating. This is why people fucking hate you. This is why you're getting your ass kicked in Iran. This is why the Iranians are making Lego videos talking directly to American people in a way that we can understand because you're a stupid asshole and you kind of show that that's kind of where the American mindset is. That's the point. But we're sitting here and we're all kind of holding our breath because what is he going to do? Fuck him. What are you going to do? Are you gonna build community? Are you gonna start mutual aid? Are you gonna start learning how to get new skills beyond I got this new certificate? Fuck all that. This shit is over. How are we gonna survive? We will survive. Do you know how to operate a firearm? Do you know how to set a bone? Do you understand the stories of the past to pass them through verbal communication? Do you understand the history? Can you write? That's what's going to be important. Not, well, I was able to scale our products to 100. No one's going to care anymore. So I challenge us all as we end today's episode on this note, whatever it might be. Kind of got worked up there, but it's just like, you kind of get like, aren't y'all sick of this shit? Aren't y'all sick of this shit? And Steve said something earlier in the chat. I'm going to bring it here. Yeah, here it is here. Fuck how it is. Change how it is. That's right. Because all that is a thought terminating cliche. It's how it is. It is what it is. Boys will be boys. You know, God works in mysterious ways. These are all called thought terminating cliches, meaning these are things that are meant to stop the conversation, stop your critical thinking. It just is what it is. Okay, why is it that way? And I mean, I have to do this. I have to beat women to be a man. This is what it is. You know, look, I'm not the one that's saying you ain't masculine, or I'm not the one that's saying, you're not a white person. Whose rules are we abiding by? And this is why conservatives love things like traditional. These are traditional values. And some of us in our communities will start saying, well, that's against my traditions. Well, I always like to question, whose traditions are they? Are they your traditions? Your traditions? You invented those traditions? Your people and your culture invented those traditions? Or are those the traditions that were pushed on you, that were forced on you through violence, and through coercion, and through manipulation? Which way is it? And we're at a moment now where I think people are waking up and saying, I'm tired of this shit. But I just wish more folks were more like Scott Pelley and less like Caitlin Collins. Folks, that's today's episode. Thank you for tuning into the Roots Rundown. I am your host, Payron Baxter. Again, if you guys could, please like, share, and subscribe to the Radical Truth podcast and platform so we can keep building our viewer base. We had a lot of folks on today, which is more than, which is all across all platforms, Facebook, we had Instagram, we had some Twitch folks, and YouTube. So we had all 4 cylinders humming today. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's the t-shirt. I don't know. Maybe it's just you guys telling folks. And I appreciate you all. Thank you all. And we'll be back tomorrow with another parking lot. So I'll let y'all drive the show. We still got today. I didn't hit on 8 things. I just kind of have a running list. Sometimes things get taken off or kind of gets dated out, but it'll be a fun day tomorrow. So please make sure that you all tune in. And if you guys can, please pick the numbers. I have a number listed. And we'll see you all tomorrow. And thank you all.